So one day we're like 2 hours away from quitting, and my foreman tells me that we're going to put this big old heat exchanger on the third floor of this building. The building was a new building being built. They had already decked the level above us, so we could not take the crane and drop it directly in on the floor that we needed it. So we were going to have to steal it from the crane, which means the crane brings it up close to the side of the building. We have chain falls hooked up, and we will take the load from the crane slowly and drift it into the building that way. So I was in my late 20s, and I go up there. I hook the chain fall up. The foreman's down on the ground. He's flagging the fork truck. They're bringing this like 6x20 big super radiator heat exchanger in on the forks. He sets it down. He's flagging the fork truck back, and I hear this screeching sound. And I'm like, what the heck? And so, I kind of had an idea that the forks had hit the bottom of that radiator. And, radiator has fins on it. And this isn't good, right? In my head. So I see the foreman, and he looks around. He notices like nobody's really around, and I see him kind of bend down and look underneath of it, and he's kind of aware it's messed up. And so I decide to come down out of this building. So I come down out of the building, and I go down there, and I walk on the ground. He's already walked off by then. The heat exchanger is just sitting there by itself. There's other crafts milling around. There's like 1,200 Zachry people in this job. So like there's people everywhere, but nobody is paying attention to this heat exchanger. So I look at the bottom side of it. It's like 2 inches off the ground, and there's just, oh man, these forks done jacked this thing up bad. So I go to the foreman. I'm like, hey man, those forks got the bottom of that radiator. He was like, I didn't do it. I was like, well, you were flagging the fork truck. I was like, you told him to come on out. You should have like looked. And he's like, oh, it's not our problem. I said, well, we got to let somebody know if this thing's messed up. He said, you just put it in. He said, and if they don't like it, we'll take it back out and we'll put another one in. No, sir. No, I don't do rework. That's one thing I hate. We don't do rework. We do it perfect. We do it once and we walk away from it. Anyway, about that time, the crane gets pulled for a hot job, and they say, hey, we're going to put the heat exchanger in tomorrow morning, first thing. So the next morning, I'm back up in position. Crane gets hooked up on it. Heat exchanger gets about 10 foot off the ground, and the superintendent's standing there, and he looks at the bottom of this thing, and I see him waving his arms, and he's giving them the cable down, bring everybody in. And I knew what was going on, so I walked down there where the stuff's going on. The superintendent, fantastic dude by the name of Tom, comes over to me. He's like, Zach, did you know that heat exchanger was messed up? I said, yeah. He said, how'd you know? I said, I saw the fork truck do it to it yesterday. He said, well, we're going to have to get a written report on this. So after everybody filed the reports, they looked and they decided that they were going to let the foreman go for the fact that he tried to cover it up and hide that the damage had been done. They didn't really care about the accident. They just didn't like that he was going to try to put this thing in and then have them come, us take it out and put it back in, knowing good and well that, the company or LG&E, Louisville Gas and Electric down the Ohio River in Louisville, was not going to accept this thing. So